Good afternoon. It's Friday, the 4th of July, 2025. Happy Independence Day, Patrick.
Oh, thanks for remembering, Mike.
Yeah, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Mike Robinson. My co-host today in the studio is Patrick Henningsen, and journalist Mark Anderson joins us by video link from the United States. Now, let's get straight on. Palestine Action is at the Royal Courts of Justice for what they describe as the last opportunity to stop their prescription as terrorists. This follows the agreement by the House of Lords yesterday to prescribe the group. Now, in an act of sheer hypocrisy, Yvette Cooper, amongst others, attended the House of Commons on Wednesday wearing a sash to celebrate the Suffragettes, who used even worse tactics, including explosives, than Palestine Action to make their point. So absolute hypocrisy, because most of the lot in that photograph there then went on to vote to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organisation. Now, we are hoping at some point during the course of the programme to have some live. In fact, Wilsey is just joining us as we speak. Wilsey, I don't know if you can hear us at the moment.
Hello, so we're just down near the protest today at the High Court, and we've got a massive crowd down here. And we've just been interviewing people. A lot of people are extremely concerned that this is going to be the thin end of the wedge in terms of protests in this country. And as you can see, there's an absolutely massive crowd here down at the High Court. We weren't sure the turnout was going to be this big, but it's absolutely massive.
Let's hold on one second. Let's make a formal welcome to the programme. This is Wilsey from Resistance GB. As you say, a massive crowd there, Wilsey, and has it been well behaved so far?
What was that, Mike?
How are things going at the court? Are the crowd protesting well?
There's a lot of energy down here. You can see there are a huge amount of people. It's an absolutely massive crowd. I'm sorry that it's slightly hard to hear you down here. But you can see there's a huge crowd. They've got speakers, they've got a sound system, and I'm estimating there might be maybe 1,000 people down here. It's a really big crowd.
And is there any indication yet as to what the likely outcome of this is going to be?
People are very unsure what the likely outcome is going to be. People aren't certain, given that they've been talking especially about Israeli infiltration. And they say there is a lot of Zionist control within the government. And so they're worried that no matter how many numbers they have down here, that it will just be ignored. But they do have hopes. They believe that there's a human rights argument on this. And they think, hopefully, fingers crossed, they can win. But no one really knows.
And does anybody know how long this hearing is likely to take? Are we going to get a result today?
They're hoping to get a result today. And a lot of people are very angry at this. A lot of people are very angry at the fact that they're going to be designated terrorists. And people have expressed to me that they're happy to continue with Palestine Action despite the terrorist designation, potentially challenging that under human rights grounds.
Well, Wilsey, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us today. That has been extremely interesting. It's great to see that number of people out on the streets. And you have sent us a little video report. We're going to put that out during Extra today, and that'll go out alongside the news programme later on. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Now, that is quite the situation there, Patrick. The issue, as I mentioned on Wednesday, is aside from the hypocrisy of Yvette Cooper and so on, wearing the sash, honouring the suffragettes at the same time that they're making this vote. Of course, the actual activities of Palestine Action, no different to others, including Just Stop Oil and others. This was not terrorism by any definition.
No, this is the criminalization of what used to be legal protest in the country. And I think let's just underline the point here that the government, the Yvette Cooper, the Starmer, the Israeli lobby, they're strong-arming parliament in order to criminalize protest on behalf of it looks like, according to their involvement with the various Israeli lobby actors, Mike, on behalf of a foreign government.
Yes.
So,
well, look, we are going to talk more about the context of this in a little moment. But you've got more on the Palestine action situation here.
as you can see, there's a shot here from the High Court, of course. So as Wilsey was reporting there, a lot more people. This was earlier from a previous hearing, I believe. So this is the scene, and there's a lot going on here. And the government is not looking good on any of this. Let's just look at chapter 1 here, revealed how the Israel lobby got Keir Starmer to ban Palestine action. So clearly there is activity in the background here with regards to the various Israeli lobby organizations, and they're playing a pivotal role, Mike, in pushing for the banning of Palestine action, or worse than banning, labeling them a terrorist organization here. But here's what we spoke about before, and this is what you need to pay attention to. And this is, again, from Yvette Cooper's statement here. She is the Secretary of State for the Home Department, Home Office there. The disgraceful attack on Bryce Norton, talking about RAF, Bryce Norton Air Base, in the early hours of the morning on Friday, the 20th of June, where I guess they put red paint on one of the...
Yeah, I mean, to call it an attack is just ridiculous.
An attack.
They broke in and they put some red paint on a plane in the engine bay. Wait a minute, what can we say?
It's that used to be considered legal, and might be criminal damage. We'll get to that in a minute. But back up on screen here, saying that, here we go. This latest is in a long history of unacceptable criminal damage committed by Palestine action. So it's right there in the words of the Home Secretary, criminal damage. It doesn't say terrorism.
Right.
It's criminal damage, which is legal, is protected protest. Okay, so, and they go on here, and this is also important. It says the UK's defense enterprise is vital to the nation's national security, and this government will not tolerate those that put that security at risk. So, defense enterprise. What is the definition of enterprise?
Well, that's like industry. It's something productive.
It's profit-driven industry, enterprise. So the UK's profit-generating defense industry is vital to the national security, and anybody that touches it or disrupts it for any reason is putting the national security at risk? Or, Mike, are they actually putting maybe that corporation's profits or share prices at risk?
Right.
Because are those two the same thing now? That's my question.
Yeah.
That's my question. So we're just looking at their own statements, and you can draw your own conclusions here. And let's bring this in as well. And of course, this one certainly is one for the books. The UK High Court held back evidence whilst upholding the F-35 controversial exports to Israel. So what exactly happened here? Let's take a look. Well, it seems that the UK ignored its own spy footage when assessing Israel's compliance with international law. We're talking about humanitarian law. So are they guilty of war crimes or genocide? Key documents withheld from court on Israel's shooting of minors. That also happened. And again, the Foreign Office paid, according to documents that are published, we'll show you in Declassified UK, £750,000 for, quote, independent analysis on Gaza. And meanwhile, the firm contracted by the Foreign Office happens to have been founded by a former UK embassy official in Tel Aviv. So no conflict of interest there, nothing to see, move along. And here to the report by Declassified UK, withheld evidence from court in Israel arms case. And we'll take a closer look here. This is just stunning, Mike. Using data from CIR and elsewhere, the Foreign Office's IHL cell revealed over 400 incidents in Gaza, but found only one attack to be impossible breach of international human rights law by Israel. And that was Israel's airstrike on the World Central Kitchen convoy, which killed 7 international aid workers, including 3 Britons. That's the only one of all the Israeli airstrikes that garnered any concern in this I can't believe I'm reading this. But anyway, the other 412 incidents that were looked at, those aren't the total Israeli incidents, by the way. Those are just the ones looked at, were judged as, quote, inconclusive. As such, the Foreign Office has still not decided whether Israel has actually committed any problems or, is not complying with international human rights law in its general war conduct. And here's the one, obviously, that was left out. They refused to submit one of CIR's research reports long-range shooting or shooting of minors, i.e. sniping at children, to the court, despite a duty to disclose and explicit request made for its disclosure. It didn't make it into the evidence. So, I mean, what kind of a legal process is going on here?
Sure.
That's the question. Here's go ahead.
No, it's obviously a fitted up legal process. I mean, there is no legal process. It completely subverts the legal process. We've seen this in other areas, like the fact that MI5 was prepared to lie to court recently. It doesn't matter what the circumstances were, they lied. So we're just seeing this, this is the government or the regime that has, no matter what color the political party has said, we're standing for the rule of law. Well, that's long out the window.
So they're willing to dismantle the rule of law, all for Israel. They're willing to dismantle and to destroy the international legal system, the international post-World War II legal system, the Genocide Convention, international humanitarian law, to protect Israel and to protect the corporations supplying weapons to Israel as it's committing a genocide. Did I get any of that wrong?
Nope.
I'm not sure that I did. Let's look at Loki, the great UK-based rapper and poet, entertainer, and happens to be an amazing journalist. This is just a clip of a report he did recently for Double Down News. Take a listen.
In addition to that, We Believe in Israel has even boasted about being given access to classified police information from a counter-terror investigation into Palestine action in 2022. Why would a lobby group for a foreign power not only be so deeply involved in the security state of this country, but why would it have access to classified documents? We Believe in Israel came out of BICOM, Israel's largest lobby group in Britain, which is currently led by Richard Pater, a reserve in the Israeli military who previously was employed by the Israeli Prime Minister's office. We Believe in Israel campaigned to remove my music from Spotify. At the time, it was led by Luke Akehurst, now serving as a Labour MP. Here is Israeli political officer from the embassy discussing Luke Akehurst and We Believe in Israel.
So Luke Akehurst is the director of We Believe in Israel. He's a great guy. He's one of the best in the inside.
Why are we allowing a foreign lobby group led by an alleged spy to dictate what is and isn't acceptable protest in this country?
Good question.
The NGO he's talking about, We Believe in Israel, are the ones that look like they pushed the initial push to ban Palestine action. He's talking about an alleged spy. Let's look at who that alleged spy or who he's referring to there. And there's the organization, We Believe in Israel. It's trying to ban Palestine action. This is clearly an Israeli lobbying organization, whatever you want to call it here. And this is the person, one of the heads anyway, of this organization. Her name is Catherine Chatham. That name sounded familiar when I first saw it. And lo and behold, it is this woman, a woman of many faces, who allegedly or apparently converted to Shia Islam and made her way onto Press TV and RTV, RT International, and other international networks, posing as a type of resistance journalist. And the allegations are that she was an Israeli spy or a British and Israeli spy, infiltrated those organizations. She, on record, has said, I managed to infiltrate to the highest levels, quote, it's in Loki's report at Double Down News. We'll give you the link to that in a moment. But here she is. There we are, executive director of We Believe in Israel. So that's quite a jump from being a pro-resistance Shiite convert gallivanting around Tehran and returns to the UK and is affiliated with the Henry Jackson Society and this organization. I mean, that's just a little bit fishy. I can see how the allegations of her being a spy are certainly prevalent, because it does look very suspicious.
Right.
So that's what's going on there. If you want any more background on this story with her, this is a great piece by Alan MacLeod at Mint Press News entitled Catherine Perez Chatham, a French-born UK Jewish, French, Jewish, and lives in the UK, apparently here, Israeli spy who infiltrated Mint Press. So apparently made her way into Mint Press as well. So very effective. And here's one of the people mentioned in Loki's report. This is the former head of Labor Friends of Israel, John Woodcock.
He had to leave the party for some reason, did he?
He did. There was a sexual harassment scandal,
Right.
as far as we could see. Apparently, he left his post after that. But he landed on his feet, Mike, managed to get a title
Peerage,
there,
yeah.
a peerage, lifetime peerage there in the House of Lords. Lord Walney, he is now known as. So, there we are. But he's featured in this report, and it's quite damning, actually. And you can see the direct link with this gentleman and all of these organizations, and then the move to ban Palestine action. So there we are. We see all these operatives working pretty much in concert for the same ends. There's Loki's report there. If you want to go look at this Double Down News, he is just a fantastic journalist. I don't need to say any more, Mike, but all the receipts are there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Well, look, let's just have a look at some of the context behind this, because, of course, it shouldn't be really surprising that the British government is behaving this way. On Wednesday, we were discussing the fact that the inconveniences of elections and representation of the electorate have been removed from the MP's job description on the British Parliament website. And this is just one of the recent signs that we, in fact, do live in a dictatorship. So let's just remind ourselves of where we're at. So first of all, let's look at the shutdown of any criticism of the state. We have the Online Safety Act that everybody will be aware of. We've got the new National Security Act, the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, the Terrorism Act as examples. The Terrorism Act, as everybody knows, is increasingly used to terrorize anyone who's speaking out through arrests at borders, with interrogations, phone and laptop seizures, and so on. And of course, now with the prescription of organizations. But it's the Foreign Influence and Registration Scheme that I want to focus on for a second here, because this is a subset of the National Security Act that's just been made active yesterday. I'm just going to quote a little bit here. This landmark measure introduces an unprecedented enhanced tier protecting our economy and society from covert activities by Iran and Russia. That was from the Home Office. Now, it is a two-tier scheme. The political tier requires registration of any arrangements to carry out political influence activities in the UK on behalf of a foreign power, including political communications or lobbying senior decision makers such as MPs and election candidates. But a more stringent enhanced tier applies to foreign powers considered to pose a risk to UK's safety of interests. The whole of the Russian and Iranian states have been placed under this tier. Now, there are limited exemptions for journalists and so-called recognised news publishers, but the Starmer regime says that, quotes, individuals and organisations, brackets, including news publishers and journalists, who are required to register under the enhanced tier if they are directed by a specified foreign power or entity to carry out or arrange for others to carry out a broader range of what are described as relevant activities in the UK. Now, relevant activities in the context of the media include, but they're not limited to, conducting or arranging interviews at the direction of a specified foreign power or specified foreign power controlled entity, publishing news reports at the direction of a specified foreign power or specified foreign power controlled entity, creating video reports at the direction of a specified foreign power or specified foreign power controlled entity, and investigative journalism activities at the direction of a specified foreign power or specified foreign power controlled entity. Now, of course, they can make up what at the direction of a specified power or specified foreign power controlled entity means, but I've seen nothing which suggests that Russia Today or Press TV are not foreign power controlled entities. Now, I'm certain they are, but then we're left with what at the direction of means. This is still absolutely unclear. But coming back to the dictatorship, let's look at the next group of statute, and those designed to criminalize protest. And we have here the Police Crime Courts and Sentencing Act and the Public Order Act, which both place major limitations on the ability of the public to protest government or regime actions. And now, as we've highlighted on Wednesday and today, the Terrorism Act is being used in this area as well, as Palestine Action represents. And finally, surveillance that we'll talk about here. The investigatory powers in this country continue to be used to surveil us all. And with the ongoing row with Apple over the use of end-to-end encryption, it's clear that the Starmer regime wants no limitations on bulk data collection in this country. Now, in news related to this, then, Brian Levison has been reappointed to the Investigatory Powers Tribunal. This is the body which is supposed to hold the use of these powers to account. Levison's been doing this job for the past 6 years and has been appointed for a further 3. Now, this is to a so-called independent oversight tribunal, which has, frankly, at this point, upheld almost no cases brought against the state in recent years. And even for the few cases that they have found against the agencies, in fact, it turns out there's nothing they can do about it anyway, because they apparently can't apply any kind of financial sanction or anything like that. But coming back to this again, the Data Use and Access Act, recently passed, is another contribution to the dictatorship, as well as it enables the sharing of bulk data with private companies such as Palantir and others that Patrick's already mentioned just a few minutes ago, so that AI can be leveraged by the state. So this is quite an incredible batch of legislation that we've seen coming through in the last few years, although the Terrorism Act goes back a bit further than that, but it's now being used in a way that it was never intended. But let's not forget the daddy of them all, and that is the Covert Human Intelligence Sources (Criminal Conduct Act. And if you remember, the short text of this went on. It says, a bill to make provision for and in connection with the authorization of criminal conduct in the course of or otherwise in connection with the conduct of covert human intelligence sources. Now, there are apparently no real restrictions on the types of criminal conduct permitted by this act. And the range of government agencies is virtually limited that can make use of this as well. Now, it is true that there's an undoubted decline in the use of covert human intelligence sources, but they are still used. And it's in this context that I think we should be looking at the Palestine Action issue, because even if you disagree with their aims, the fact that their right to protest and express themselves is shut down in this way is as dangerous as it gets for all of us. And anyone welcoming this regime action, I think, does so at their own peril.
And to add to that, Mike, what Loki shared in that Double Down report is Elbit Systems. Elbit Systems has their own corporate intelligence cell,
right,
which they use to surveil and monitor members of Palestine Action and then report to the government. Corporate intelligence. So this is another layer to that whole thing that you just laid out there.
So
Incredible.
we have got ourselves in quite the pickle in this country with respect to the level of power and the degree of power that the government has claimed for itself just in the last few years. And this isn't a Labour thing. This is cross-party. It's the Uni Party in action, and we really have to consider that when we are making a judgment of whether we should be supporting this court action on behalf of Palestine Action or not. And it is a dangerous situation when I don't know how many judges are going to be involved in making this decision, probably 3, I suppose. But nonetheless, it comes down to those 3 individuals.
And also the continued blurring of the line, Mike, between national security and national interests, and then between national interests and corporate interests. Ergo, corporate interests become national security. Because what are we protecting here? What's all this surveillance for? Why does the government need license to break the law? Is anything in Palestine putting the UK at risk? No.
No, the danger is to the entities that operate in this country.
To the corporations that are based here, as well as Leonardo and other big defense contractors, which their stocks are doing very well right now. Okay, through the roof, European defense stocks. And I wonder how many people in government own those shares or have them indexed in their various funds. So the performance of these defense contractors that are killing people right now, let's just kind of put it bluntly, somehow that's in the interest of politicians in Britain, Europe, and the United States to keep the killing going. Sorry to be crude and blunt about it, but that's what it looks like.
Right now, we were talking about foreign influence there a second ago. Now, of course, when we're looking at journalists who may be affected by this, there are a number of British journalists who have worked with RT and with Press TV, and those are the two countries, sort of media outlets, which are absolutely on the list for foreign influence. Now, one of the people who does is seen on Press TV from time to time, if not actually regularly, is David Miller, and of course a very outspoken critic of Zionism. He's coming under increasing pressure, Patrick.
Yeah, they're all going after David. One of the reasons they're going after David Miller is because he's stood up and he has fought them and won, at least in the tribunal earlier regarding his dismissal at Bristol University. But this latest challenge is a whole nother level. We've got a video message which David posted on his X account. Everybody listen to this very closely and we'll tell you how you can help. But go ahead and roll this.
So I'm here at Westminster Magistrates Court where I came this morning for the first hearing in the case being brought against me by the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. They have accused me of sending 3 menacing tweets under the Communications Act of 2003. It was a case hearing today. There was no pleading done, and we will come back in a couple of months for further discussions and hearings before a trial date has been set for the 15th of December. They will try and silence me. They're trying to silence me through this whole procedure. And of course, what we are doing is fighting back against the Zionist attempt to completely destroy any speech in support of the Palestinians and against the existence of the Zionist movement, which is of course a fundamentally racist and genocidal movement. Obviously, this is yet another court case which I'm fighting, which will have significant legal costs. We have a great legal team from Bernberg Pierce, and we need to raise funds to support both the Bernberg Pierce team and the barristers who are acting for me, including some well-known and high-profile barristers. So I would appeal to everyone who can afford it to supply us with anything they can afford to support the legal fees in this case to the Left Legal Fighting Fund at fightingfund.org.
Yeah, so just to get some more details on this, we'll bring this up on screen. This is the basis. This is an attempt at a private prosecution, and it's a strategic lawsuit against public participation, or a SLAPP. Talk about an acronym there. And an act of desperation by the State of Israel in a propaganda war it has already lost. This is up on David Miller's crowdfunding site here. And this is what he says, and this is basically the gist of it. They say that some of my posts on this platform, X, were, quote, menacing against Jews and Zionists, says David Miller. Now, if you want to help out in this legal challenge here, there's his crowdfunding campaign right there. Left Legal Fighting Fund, Stop the CAA. The campaign against anti-Semitism is what's being used to try to skewer David Miller here once again. And again, take a closer look at the URL. We'll bring that up on screen. That's the URL if you want to get involved, fightingfund.org/stop the CAA.
And it'll be in the show notes.
This will be on the show notes as well. And for those of you who don't want to use the online facility, I think they have a facility if you want to send a check. If you prefer to send a check, there's the address right there. Take a screenshot of this right now on the program. And that's in Derby, England, that address there. Please indicate on the back of the check what it's for, i.e. write David Miller on the back of the check so they know when you send it to that address. But that was posted by David Miller himself on his X account. So we are just copying that information and sharing it with you. Very important precedent. Obviously, they're really going after David. They lost in the tribunal. They tried to take him down. He fought back and he won. And now they're coming at him to try to shut down his free speech, to deny him of his rights of freedom of expression as an academic and also as a journalist as well.
Now let's welcome Mark to the program. And Mark, the protest against what's going on in Gaza isn't restricted to the UK. Many other countries as well are protesting. What's been going on in the Netherlands?
Good day, gentlemen. I was looking into similar things, and I happened to find an item from NDTV World News out of Holland, and it's very poignant. It kind of speaks for itself. There's a video clip we can roll in a moment. It also comes as an Irish politician who was falsely labeled as the prime minister spoke out in the Irish parliament very emotionally about Benjamin Netanyahu's targeting of children, he believes, in Palestine with basically murder, with all the blunt force of the IDF. Anyway, this is very poignant. A lot of shoes were recently laid out, tens of thousands of pair of shoes in Holland to symbolize the deaths of children in Palestine. So let's let that roll.
This is the 12th time that we are organizing a memorial protest in the Netherlands. We are in Almere this time. We are saying 18,000 shoes. That's the official numbers right now, but we know that more children than that, way more children than that, have been murdered. They are under the rubble. They have not been found yet or not been registered because the system just can't do it anymore. I felt angry today coming here that we have to do this again and again, a year and a half, and the genocide is not ending. Actually, our family today said to each other, maybe we will not wake up tomorrow, when they went to sleep in Gaza last night. Alhamdulillah, they are alive, but we don't know how many more people we are going to be losing. So I am devastated that we are commemorating all of these children. The shoes represent children, and that it's not stopping. So I am calling anybody in power, anybody who can do anything, but also normal people, to keep raising attention and put pressure on governments to end this genocide by Israel in Palestine.
So again, a very poignant reminder of the death toll in Palestine, particularly against children. As she mentioned, so many of them under the rubble, a truly devastating and tragic outcome. But of course, not unexpected given the IDF's absolutely relentless and barbaric approach to this. So that puts a lot of icing on the cake of what we've already seen. And the protests are in the United States as well, but they're pretty scattered. And of course, we always have to believe or understand that agent provocateurs or infiltrators will occasionally get into these protests and lead people to do things they otherwise wouldn't do, maybe acts of vandalism, so then they can be labeled as terrorists. That does happen from time to time. But that'll do it for now. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Mark. Patrick, sticking with the Gaza genocide then?
Yeah, I'll give you an update on that. And just to let you know, there are good people in Holland.
Yes.
Don't let the Secretary General of NATO give you the wrong impression of that country. There's wonderful people in Holland, and we just showed you one of them there. Now, let's bring this up here, and just so people are aware, this is no longer speculation. It's not video tricks you're seeing on social media. U.S. contractors say their colleagues are firing live ammunition at Palestinians seeking food in Gaza. As you can see, they've created a concentration camp here, funded by the U.S. government and the Israelis. They're calling this humanitarian aid. They're letting them loose to go find and run to get food, and then shooting them. The number dead is running at a clip, including from these sites, as well as the bombing raids by Israel, around 100 Palestinians a day. It seems, Mike, like it's a quota by the IDF. They need to kill 100 per day, because that's what it's averaging out at over the last few weeks. Is that all Hamas? I don't think it is. Of course, it's not. It's ridiculous to even say so. So the UN has issued the Human Rights Council has issued a new report. We've seen the draft of that. I think the final has been published already. If it hasn't, it's probably up on their website. But here's Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights, talking about what's in this report and why it's so significant, and why the time for debate, discussion, and trepidation of, oh, is it a genocide? Oh, is it not? Oh, is Israel intending to kill civilians on an industrial scale? Or is it just a mistake and is just all this collateral damage? That time for that debate has long since passed. Listen.
My report exposes a system, something that is so structural and so widespread and so systemic that there is no possibility to fix it and redress it. It is to be dismantled. And, you know, had businesses and had the corporate sector observed due diligence, had it honored its commitment to do due diligence, even before October 7, 2023, he would have disengaged completely and totally from its entanglement with the Israeli economy. Because, first of all, it's a fiction that there is a line dividing, separating the good Israel within Israel and the bad Israel in the occupied territory. No, the economy is one. Israel's economy is one and one only, and encapsulates the colonies. The colonies do not exist because some fringy part of the Israeli society is pioneering into the wild, wild West Bank. No, it's because this is resolving the housing crisis in Israel. These people live and thrive within a system that is so connected, that is part of the Israeli state.
That's the Special Rapporteur for Palestine and the occupied territories, Francesca Albanese here. Let's take a look at the draft edited version here. This is just the clips that I took from it. We'll bring this up on screen. The UN's Special Rapporteur's 27-page report shows in granular detail how Israel's war economy has mutated from occupation to an economy of genocide, powered by a tight-knit web of global corporations and investors. Well, let's take a look at that tight-knit web. They're right here. The document names more than 60 firms. Among them, drumroll please, ladies and gentlemen, tech bros stand by, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Palantir. Anybody own Palantir shares? I had a chance to buy at 60. I passed. I'm glad I did. Lockheed Martin, Elbit Systems. Well, we were just talking about them. Caterpillar, HD Hyundai, Volvo. Good cars, but I'm not sure about what they're doing with the Israelis. Chevron, Drummond, and Glencore. Of course, Glencore's in there, as direct beneficiaries and enablers of the deconstruction of Gaza and the entrenchment of West Bank settlements. Well, there you have it. It's an economy. So it's beyond debate. And why there is not sanctions already, why there is not full-blown embargo on arms. They're in violation of the Arms Trade Treaty. UK is signed to that, right? The Genocide Treaty, Genocide Convention, UK is signed to that, as is the United States. They're fully in violation of all of that. So why are our governments still shipping weapons? And shipping anything? Everyone sanctioned South Africa for far less in comparison, although the apartheid regime was bad, although it was brutal, but they weren't doing anything near to the level of violence that Israel has been doing for the last 20 months. So what are we waiting for? That's the question.
That's a good question. Okay, let's leave that there now and move on. If you like what the UK column does, we do need your support. I want to say thank you again to everybody that does support us. But if you look on the front page of the website, you'll find a link to the support page. We do need your help, as I say. A reminder of the interview that went out at 1 p.m. yesterday with Professor Gloria Moss. This is looking at the situation in universities and so on. So do have a look at that. It's described as a higher education crisis, and of course that's exactly what it is. Tonight at 7 p.m. with Germ, Charles and I are with Germ for our weekly banter. Join us at 7 tonight. A reminder of Vanessa's latest article on the UK Column website, Iran on its Ring of Fire. If you haven't read it yet, please do. Please share it. Sharing it is absolutely, sharing everything that's on the UK Column website is absolutely important for us as well. And finally, an advertisement here for an event taking place tomorrow in Scotland. This is taking place in Glasgow at the end of Jamaica Street by the River Clyde on the digital slavery. And so they are going to be out campaigning on that issue tomorrow. Anybody in the area would like to join them, the details on screen will be in the show notes as well.
Keep cash alive. Look at that sign.
Absolutely.
We love that.
Yeah. Sorry. And finally, then a reminder of the date for your diary, Saturday, 18th of October, 2025, next UK Column on Location event. The subject will be health, and that's taking place in York, venue to be notified later on. So, and speakers as well. So keep that date in your diaries for that. Okay, let's move on then to Ukraine. And what do we have here? Well, lots of bombing going on. Trump was on the phone again to Putin yesterday. He seems to have offered, well, not very much, actually. In fact, so the Western media is presenting this as Putin being unwilling to do a deal. But in the early hours of this morning, then, Kiev was under bombardment again, as we could see on screen at the moment. There were several waves of attacks lasting for hours. And according to Ukrainian Air Force's Telegram channel, Kiev was the main target of the strikes. Zelensky, of course, piped up. He condemned it. He said that this was one of the most, quotes, demonstratively significant and cynical attacks of the war. He was very unhappy, in fact, that his sleep was disrupted. He said it was a harsh, sleepless night. So he also complained that the attacks came directly following Putin's call with Trump. And he wrote on his Telegram channel that Russia once again demonstrates that it does not intend to end the war. Now, in related news, Mark Rutte, Secretary General, gave an interview to Fox News on Wednesday. Now, let's just get a feel for how unhinged he actually is.
And then to Lavrov, I mean, he's foreign minister of Russia, I think, since the birth of Jesus Christ. And since then, anything useful came out of his mouth. So let's not pay too much attention to Mr. Lavrov.
This is just quite incredible to be coming out of the mouth of Mark Rutte, the biggest propagandist on the face of the earth, as far as I can see.
I could also interpret that as he's basically inferring that Sergei Lavrov is the Messiah. So if that's the case, we should organize some Lavrov prayer candles. They're coming to you by next week, so look out for those. Okay,
well, anyway, Rutte's main message for the United States was around his continuing whinging that Trump appears to have withdrawn support for Ukraine. In fact, the Department of Defense has only announced a pause in deliveries of some weapon systems, including Patriot missiles, precision-guided artillery shells, Hellfire missiles and munitions compatible with F-16. I mean, the F-16s are being shot down, so it hardly matters. But anyway, Rutte said, I totally understand that the US always has to make sure its interests are covered. When it comes to Ukraine, in the short term, Ukraine cannot do without all the support it can get. I understand the US has to take care of its stockpiles. And at the same time, we have to allow for some flexibility here. Europeans, in the meantime, are really stepping up. Well, my question, Mark, if we can bring you back on screen, is are they stepping up?
Well, that is certainly the plan. There is a major move in Europe, and I mentioned it. We can show this first slide. I mentioned it in a couple of reports ago on the 20th of June when I talked about a Bilderberg attendee citing the Savings and Investment Union as part of a greater stockpile of cash and credit to leverage or collateralize to completely revolutionize and enlarge European defense. And that is to be based on largely European production and far less reliance, they say, on American weapons and American weapons systems. Let's go back to that first slide, because that's the important report. the European Commission unveils the White Paper for European Defense and the Rearm Europe Plan and Readiness 2030. The Commission and the High Representative have presented a white paper for European defense as part of the Rearm Europe Plan, an ambitious defense package providing financial levers, including the Savings and Investment Union, to EU member states to drive an investment surge in defense capabilities. So this is about rumors of war, the possibility of war, real war. It's about basically basing the entire planned economic boost of Europe and basing it all on defense and military. It seems that we cannot have peace and economic prosperity at the same time. We have to put the entirety of Europe on a war footing, a war production footing. Only then can we have that military-based, relatively good economic health, economic vitality. Anyway, here's some key quotes from that European Defense and Rearmament Plan, Readiness 2030. This plan also relies on the European Investment Bank Group to widen the scope of its lending to defense and security projects while safeguarding its financial capacity. On top of unlocking substantial funding, this will send a positive signal to the all-important markets. And we have another call out, I believe, from that same plan. And this relates again to that Savings and Investment Union, providing further validation that that's happening. Public investment alone will not be sufficient to fill the defense industry's investment needs, from startups to large established companies. For this, the Savings and Investments Union strategy will make it easier to mobilize private savings into more efficient capital markets and channel investments into critical sectors of the economy, such as defense. And they're saying for now in this report that the Savings and Investment Union would be putting forth money voluntarily from European savers, everyday citizens and their savings accounts and their time deposits and things like that. This next slide is basically just a source that people can access from the show notes. This is a very in-depth report in a lot of ways, the economic impact of higher defense spending. And it admits pretty clearly here that Europe will go significantly into debt and incur much more debt to do this European-wide major defense manufacturing rearmament plan. And so that's very significant to keep in mind. The next slide also reiterates from a couple of reports ago from me, the Bilderberg link, leveraging or collateralizing the savings of Europeans, which numbers in the tens of trillions in the amount. That came up initially in this European Financial Stability and Integration Review Plan that Maria Albuquerque, a Bilderberg attendee this year in Sweden, announced on the eve of Bilderberg. So we've got solid proof that they're going to leverage savings, and it's just a matter of how they'll do it. The next thing is just a basic graph. I only have one of these. It shows from 2014 to 2024. That was the initial commitment a little over 10 years ago for 2% of GDP to be spent on defense by European countries. And by the time you get to 2022, where Russia invades Ukraine, you see the speed up and increase of defense spending from NATO countries. And so another key point here is that it's pretty much all predicated on Ukraine and Russia. Russia is this big threat. They alone wore the black hats when they invaded Ukraine. Therefore, that's kind of the whole central motivating point of this is Ukraine wears the white hats. They can do nothing wrong. And so because of what happened to them, Europe must rearm in a very broad and long-term sense, with profiteering being at the top of the game. Anyway, there's some other important aspects to cover here on breaking defense. This is a trade journal. Let's look at this. There was a recent Paris Air Show where a lot of these, of course, weapons are put out like in an exhibit kind of way. Europe is pouring money into defense, the headline says. Can U.S. firms reap the reward amid transatlantic tensions? And so the U.S., of course, is chomping at the bit now that it motivated Europe to spend not just 2%, but up to 5% of its GDP, European nations, on defense. But that's a 10-year timeline. That's supposed to be up to about 2035. They're giving them 10 years to reach that 5% threshold, But the Financial Post noted in this 27 June item, European allies are wary of buying American as they plan this defense buildup. So the U.S. may or may not totally cash in on this rearming and remilitarizing of Europe, where they're going to try and build the entire economic prosperity of Europe pretty much on military matters, the armaments, AI systems, ammunition, you name it. Now, Andrius Kubilius, the EU Commissioner for Defense and Space, had a couple interesting things to say. And I'll mention that before I quote him, that Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, is saying the peace dividend is over. The peace dividend is no more. In order for Europe to prosper, we must be on a war footing, a war military production footing. But anyway, here's what Andreas had to say. The defense package, the white paper for European defense and rearmament of Europe plan that I mentioned, marks a defining moment for our union, a defining moment. Europe can no longer afford to be a bystander in its own security. And he also had this to say, we must take our defense into our own hands, reinforcing our commitments to collective security and standing firm against those who seek to challenge our sovereignty. And a real irony of this, of course, is the very creation of the EU, which Bilderberg had at least a small hand in, was in a lot of ways, the overturning of individual European nations' sovereignty. So the European Union really doesn't have a leg to stand on in terms of talking about sovereignty, because even for it to exist, it had to at least lessen the sovereignty of its member states. So that pretty much sums up what's going on. The Savings and Investment Union has now been confirmed as one definite way that they'll finance this. And Europeans better hold tight onto their money, or at least they better get a lot more information about how this is going to work. There is one more slide. If you want, Mike, we can save it for extra. But at the Paris Air Show, they put baffling and opaque baffles around the Israeli booths at that Paris Air Armament Show in a move that Israel called outrageous and unprecedented, evidently a act of protest in some respect against what the Israeli military has been doing, unless they were somehow protecting them, or maybe even a little bit of both. But Israel did protest about that. But that's an interesting twist on the end of this story for today.
Just on the defense thing, Mike, this 5% target, the likelihood that any of these countries are going to actually meet that. You're talking about all these, as Mark said, all the bail-ins or, stealing savings to find. They're looking for all these schemes because the cash isn't there. Italy's doing about 1.5% at the moment, and they're so desperate to add to the NATO tally. There's a bridge that's planned to join the mainland Italy to Sicily, and Meloni's trying to bundle that in as a NATO expense in order to get up closer to her 5%. And Trump just threatens the Spanish. The Spanish said, no way are we going to spend 5% of GDP on military. And Trump threatened them with tariffs. So talk about an attack on sovereignty. The United States is going to determine whether you're going to go into massive debt to pay for this bloated 5% defense budget to fight a phantom menace, the beast from the East. Talk about an attack on sovereignty. So you can't decide what you spend your money on anymore? Is this the new Europe?
It absolutely is, yeah.
Unbelievable.
No, it is the new Europe. And, it's absolutely clear, Patrick. The UK claims to be spending 2.5% already, 2.7%, whatever it is at the moment, and they say they're going to go to 3.5%, whatever. In order to even come to that number, they are including pensions in the figure. So and I'm sure all the other European countries are doing something similar. Yeah. So we are faced with a Russia. If Russia is our enemy, which I absolutely say they are not, but von der Leyen and the rest and Starmer claim that Russia is our enemy. Now, Russia has weaponry with much smaller defense budget than the weaponry that we can't even get near. And so, do these people really expect Russia to sit back and wait for the 20 years that it's going to take to get for the West to get up to a level where they could actually seriously prosecute a war against them? Or are they just going to ignore us? Or what are they going to do?
Well, if it takes 20 years, Mike, then that's just about right, because every 100 years, Europe decides they're going to try to invade Russia, and it gets the same result every time. They run back with their tail between their legs. So let's set our watches for 2040, and let's do Operation Barbarossa again, and Napoleon trying to take Moscow. That went well, didn't it? So, I mean, this is just like ridiculous. What is the problem with Europe? What is this obsession with having to go to war with Russia constantly?
Yes.
Why didn't they just roll back NATO? And so this is just unbelievable. NATO's a joke, okay? This is all about interoperability. We know it doesn't work. And how many tanks does NATO produce collectively in a year in Europe? The European side, 100?
Yeah.
What is Europe?
We don't have the productive capability.
What does Russia produce in terms of tanks in a year? About 1,500, 1,500 a year. The whole of Europe can't even do a tenth of the Russian production. Are you guys kidding? Seriously.
And despite sanctions. By the
Seriously.
way, let's just remind ourselves of that.
Like, what world are you living in? But your stocks are doing good. Your portfolios are doing good. Index funds, you're making money. You'll be able to buy the third or fourth house and maybe buy the yacht. So everybody's happy, right? Because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Mark, let's come back to you. Now, was it last week, I think you were talking about Chatham House and the sudden interest in Korea, in the Korean Peninsula. Now, the event has since taken place. What happened?
Well, I was able to cover it July 2nd virtually, and it was called How Should Britain Build Influence and Impact in the Korean Peninsula? It included Colin Crooks, interesting, unfortunate surname, UK Ambassador to South Korea, Edward Howell, Korean Foundation Fellow, Karen Maddox, head of Northeast Asia Department, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, moderated by Simon Smith of the British Korean Society. And I took some original photos with screenshots here. There's Colin Crooks to the left, Karen Maddox in the middle, and Edward Howell to the right. I didn't happen to include Simon in that. But there is some B-roll here that we can show if you'd like, and I can just give it a very brief outline for the time we have left. Colin Crooks talked about a bilateral free trade agreement with South Korea and said that that's in the works. And he said that Russia has positioned itself as an enemy of South Korea, allegedly. South Korea, to the far east side of Russia, is geographically close, he mentioned, to Russia. And he said South Korea has a good leader in place and has constitutional clarity now, even though its previous president declared martial law fairly recently in 2024, although that president was reportedly impeached. So they believe South Korea is now stable and constitutionally sound, so it can enter into the free trade agreement with the UK and so on. Another important point is that South Korea is sort of part of a apparent UK military and diplomatic tilt, you might say, or outreach. They're basically going to make South Korea sort of an adjunct or add-on to what they're calling the arsenal of democracy for Europe. And so in a strange way, it kind of fits into the report I just made about rearming and militarizing the economy of Europe. There is that connection there. There's some other things. Colin said, the ambassador to the South Korea of the UK, Korean language is the fastest growing for study in the UK. He called that a soft power connection and said 5,000 youth go both directions from UK to South Korea and vice versa in terms of cultural relations. And British universities and schools are actively recruiting South Korean students. Karen Maddox mentioned a lot of things. One of the highlights of Karen Maddox's comments was that she doesn't believe North Korea is in with both feet in the axis with Iran, Russia, and China. She believes it's more of a transactional, opportunistic thing, and that North Korea is part of that axis only for its own benefit. And again, it's not in with both feet. That was Karen Maddox's opinion on that. A number of other things could be said. It was something of a dry discussion, but all in all, they are saying that tensions are down in the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. However, Karen Maddox said that the channels of de-escalation have declined, as has the number of embassies. So they're trying to reestablish the UK embassy in Pyongyang. But meanwhile, North Korea does have an embassy in Ealing, a adjunct or suburb of London. And the HMS Prince of Wales, a naval ship of the UK, is supposed to visit Korea sometime this summer. So that's some of the highlights, guys. But they're trying to bring Korea in as sort of a distant adjunct of free trade and some of the military activities and related matters. I'm sure that there'll be more on this as time goes by, and we can refer back to this Chatham House meeting from July 2nd. So that should suffice for now, guys.
Thank you, Mark.
Looks like a barrel of laughs there at the
Chatham House
Memorial Institute. There, Global Britain's back, Mike.
Global Britain's back.
Global Britain's extending the empire.
I would be shocked if the HMS Prince of Wales makes it to Korea, but we'll see. We'll see how
they have to go through warm water to get there, so it might be some engine trouble, perhaps.
Yes. Well, look, we've got to leave it there for today. I'm going to say thank you very much to Mark and Patrick, and a special thanks to Wilsey from Resistance GB, and we'll let everybody know what happens at that High Court hearing if we hear before the end of Extra. If you're not a UK Column member, please consider joining, because you can join us in a few minutes for Extra on this live stream. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and we'll see you at 1 p.m. as usual on Monday. See you then. Bye-bye.